Welcome to Vegas, and welcome to Gartner's IT Infrastructure, Operations, and Cloud Strategies Conference. I'm Tom Bittman.
Good morning. I'm Autumn Stanish.
And I'm Dennis Smith. Please sit back and relax. This keynote was written by Gen AI, and we have no idea what it's going to say.
Perhaps it will be an amazing hallucination. Or maybe explain how machines will take over the world.
Now, we don't want you to be concerned, but we are a little concerned that Gen AI is listening to us right now. Oh, I guess it is.
We better sit down.
Oh, well.
See, this is what happens, what could happen, if Copilot for PowerPoint gets a little attitude. Kind of makes you wish for Clippy again. Doesn't it feel like technologies are speeding up? Just when we get comfortable with one way of doing things, it changes, and it changes again. Inflection points just keep happening. There's no doubt that our success depends on our ability to handle change, to avoid emerging threats, and to rapidly take advantage of opportunities. This is nothing new, right? But it is new because it's accelerating, and because transformation isn't a one-time thing. It's ongoing. It's a journey. And you're either leading transformation or you're being transformed. These rapid changes require new thinking, and we're going to show you how to lead this journey in infrastructure and operations. There are many well-known examples of inflection points in history, and they ignited massive changes in society and business. In the modern era, technology diffusion has sped up as technologies like software and the internet build on each other. For example, Uber invented ride-sharing, reaching 100 million active users in just 10 years. Within just 5 years, Apple sold 100 million iPhones. WeChat became the first super app, hitting 100 million users in just over a year. And then there's ChatGPT. It had 100 million users in just 2 months. These are innovations that have changed how we live and work, and they're emerging and they're spreading faster than ever before. So where does this take us? If you're just reacting to these like changes in the wind, you will be taken, maybe somewhere you don't want to go. But instead, you can take charge, accept that there's no fixed endpoint or goal, and embrace the process of transformation as a way of operating. And we have a name for this. We call this generative transformation. Yes, the word generative is often associated with AI, but it's the right word for this because it implies building on what you've already done and adapting and moving in new directions. Generative transformation is about continuously transforming, continuously improving performance, efficiency, service delivery, and most importantly, continuously adapting to new technologies to meet new business objectives, new goals at the speed of business. For infrastructure and operations leaders, this means overhauling processes, architectures, skills, and organizational structures that aren't flexible and they're holding you back. So let me make this real for you. We have recommendations and success stories to share from infrastructure and operations leaders who are living generative transformation right now. We're going to break this down into 3 parts. How you take advantage of Gen AI matters. We're going to explain how you should embrace Gen AI to empower your people and transform your processes. Next, we'll discuss infrastructure platform engineering and how that can optimize infrastructure delivery. And it can also help you take advantage of these new technologies, such as Gen AI, while reducing risk. And finally, we'll show you how you can equip your staff with the capabilities and the mindset needed to support your generative transformation. So let me start with a technology that has the potential to disrupt infrastructure and operations, business and society, perhaps more than anything we've all seen in our careers: generative AI. Now, we've been using AI and machine learning technologies for years, but generative AI is different. We're going to call it Gen AI for short. It's now at the peak of the hype cycle, and its real-world impact will be wide and deep. Gen AI will improve productivity, and it can help transform how we deliver and manage our infrastructure. But, as we know, it's a work in progress. It comes with risks, and it can break things. Regardless, the cost of risk aversion will be high. In the latest Gartner CIO survey, 80% of respondents said that they would be deploying Gen AI within 3 years. And you know what? Your employees and your customers are already using it. Now, let me ask a question. How many of you have given ChatGPT a try? Okay, that's a lot of hands, but I can't. Let's turn that around. How many of you have not tried it yet? Okay, I don't mean to shame you, but you now have your first action item from this conference. Congratulations. According to a recent Gartner Gartner survey, even 75% of CEOs have already tried it, and maybe yours, so give it a try. Gen AI is here now. How is it different than traditional AI? Let's see if it's still listening. If AI was a bartender at the Venetian, it could predict everyone's drinks. What can Gen AI do? This is actually a pretty good comparison. But as a Gartner analyst, I recommend being careful with the first sip. Where AI finds patterns, Gen AI builds new creative content from those patterns. It's in the form of text, images, sound, and actionable advice. And where AI typically requires humans to work in the language of technology, Gen AI brings the technology to humans. It's conversational, it's accessible. Now, you may be asked, you probably will be asked, to help your enterprise on its journey to Gen AI. But I'm going to focus here on how you should use Gen AI as a part of your generative transformation within infrastructure and operations. There are 4 things that you need to do. First, you need to decide how far you're willing to go, your ambition. Next, your staff need to understand how to leverage this technology effectively. Third, you need guardrails, and you need them now. And finally, you need to be intentional and have a phased plan of execution. So how ambitious will you be? The possibilities with Gen AI range from the everyday to the game-changing. Everyday includes productivity gains like automating repetitive tasks, writing scripts, and creating written documentation. This saves your staff from drudgery. The costs and the risk at this end of the spectrum are manageable, and they're relatively low. We estimate a 5 to 20% productivity gain, and that's a great incremental improvement. You should aggressively adopt Gen AI for everyday productivity, but you should consider more. And it requires imagination and staff empowerment. What processes should fundamentally change? How should the systems and the silos that we've all been building for decades possibly be torn down and rebuilt? Gen AI will enable game-changing creativity, and it can jumpstart generative transformation in infrastructure and operations. You'll need to give your staff the flexibility to be creative and look at systems design holistically. But with great rewards comes great risk and cost that you'll need to manage. Our advice, find the right balance for you, but don't hold back. Lean in. Effective use of Gen AI requires an investment in training and skills. Gen AI is very much like a baby superhero. And like all baby superheroes, they need their parents to guide them. Great power, we better control that. When it comes to your staff in Gen AI, you should think augmentation, not replacement. And your staff will need training on how and when to use Gen AI, how to create effective prompts, the importance of checking Gen AI's work. Basically, you need to train good superhero parenting skills. And the training needs to be Gen AI model specific. Poor training will break things, a lot of things. Gartner predicts that 90% of you will suffer impacts to your business due to lack of Gen AI skills and testing. Some of your staff will get it. They'll understand. And they're going to use Gen AI to great effect quickly. As you hire new infrastructure and operations staff, you should require people who get it. We call these people Gen AI natives. Like digital natives, these are folks who are effective and productive quickly because they naturally harness Gen AI in their day-to-day work. They take advantage of Gen AI to learn and transform their own capabilities. But it's not just training. You need to ensure that you have an infrastructure and operations culture that rewards creativity, experimentation, innovation, and not just productivity. Otherwise, Gen AI will never leave the realm of the everyday. With all this potential, isn't it a shame that we can't completely trust Gen AI? So I think I'll ask again, what does Gen AI think? Yeah, we're going to have to agree to disagree on that one, right? Here's how you deal with that. You need to ensure that your confidential data is protected, and you need to verify the outputs you get from Gen AI before using them. Distrust and verify is the rule of thumb. All data entered into public Gen AI models, such as ChatGPT, should be considered as non-confidential, as public information. That means your prompts, and that means the produced output. As Gen AI services and models proliferate, and they will proliferate, they'll be trained differently, and where and how they store and secure your prompts and outputs will be different. So you need to validate any Gen AI and all Gen AI services before your organization uses them. Create guardrails for approved services for how they should and should not be used. And then there's hallucinations. Sometimes Gen AI will provide text, analysis, or actions that sound plausible, but they're flat out wrong, and they might be even damaging. Now, it's highly likely that the models you use in infrastructure and operations will be highly accurate, but it only takes one unreviewed automation to cause an outage. You should check its work. And when the risks are understood and worth it, then you could start to step aside. Create guardrails for your staff, but don't completely tie their hands. Give them room to innovate and experiment. So let's get specific now. Whether you're focused on the everyday or the game-changing, you should have an intentional and phased approach for how Gen AI is going to be deployed across infrastructure and operations. And as you learn more, the plan should adapt. You should start with using Gen AI to answer questions from both public and internal knowledge bases. Do it now. For example, Gen AI could be a valuable tool for service desk analysts. In fact, in a few years, Gartner predicts that these analysts will interact with AI more than they interact with customers. But what about customer facing? Can Gen AI fix the chatbot curse? 60 years ago, Mattel produced the first pull-string talking toy. You pull the string, and you get a random response. Sometimes, it seems that's about how good chatbots are today. And Gen AI, on the other hand, is going to up-level chatbots in a big way. And ITSM vendors are creating Gen AI models trained for service desk use, making virtual agents much more effective and reducing staff time. Do this cautiously. You need to build trust from your customers. Next, look at tool augmentation. We're predicting a massive shift in embedded Gen AI capability in our IT operations tools, improving productivity significantly. You should expect it. And in fact, you should demand it. Each of these should be vetted, and your staff will need training on how to use each of these effectively. Next, consider all the documentation that your teams need to create. Gen AI is great at creating documentation, whether that's IT processes, best practices, training materials, or I guess possibly even keynotes. but I do want to say we wrote this, okay? Gen AI didn't, we did this. Gen AI can provide the scripts and the commands for handling routine online administrative tasks, like configuring servers, network management, or setting up user accounts. And Gartner predicts a major increase in the use of Gen AI for operational tasks. But we can up-level that. You've told us you don't have enough staff or time to design or engineer automations. Well, here you go. Gen AI can help. Gen AI can also take complex cross-siloed data sources like log files and traces, analyze them, find anomalies, and propose actions. This can significantly improve capacity planning, performance optimization, network monitoring, troubleshooting, and on and on. So, 4 takeaways. Decide your ambition from improving the everyday to the game-changing. For generative, ongoing transformation in infrastructure and operations, our advice is to push from the everyday to the game-changing and lean in. Keep skills at the forefront, and remember that Gen AI is about staff augmentation, not replacement. You must establish guardrails to protect your data and mitigate the risks. Distrust and verify what Gen AI delivers. Finally, build and execute an adaptable plan. Manage the risks, measure the rewards, find the right balance for you. Now, with Gen AI, you've got a powerful tool for generative transformation, but you need more. You're facing many more challenges in how we do infrastructure and operations, and it requires some new thinking. Dennis.
Yes, thank you, Tom. Challenges in infrastructure and operations. There's really nothing new here, right? Many of you are telling us about many challenges that you're facing within your environment, among them being pressure to process more service requests, management of technical debt, and yes, pressure to align to business objectives. But I want to highlight a real issue that some of you may already be seeing. We're seeing a concerning trend of some customers giving up on I&O and looking elsewhere for their own infrastructure. I'm not sure about you, but that concerns me, and it concerns me a lot. There are initiatives intended to bridge the gap between infrastructure teams and those that consume infrastructure. Platform engineering is an example of this. It's an approach that aims to improve developers' experience and productivity, and it is currently a Gartner top technology trend. While many think provisioning infrastructure is easy, doing it right and operating it well, not so much. It requires complex networking technologies, resilient infrastructure, security, compliance, and cost optimization. Do you know who's great at doing that? Yes, it is you. And fortunately, there are some key platform engineering principles that can be a guide for you to allow you to see how to offer users the capabilities that they need and also desire. Among these are the self-service experience that reduces the cognitive load and improves flows and reduces frustration. Infrastructure that is managed as a product with a focus on features that meet customer needs. A high degree of orchestration and automation. Monitoring and observability. The encouragement of contributions from the broader community to enhance the services. And predictable availability and performance measured against service level objectives. So it's time to apply platform engineering principles to optimize the delivery of infrastructure platforms. Gartner calls this infrastructure platform engineering, or IPE. Enabling autonomy and innovation, that's the opportunity that's facing us. We're at an inflection point where operational excellence alone is not enough. We must improve velocity and deliver the product features that our business needs to out-innovate the competition. And yes, we see many examples of leading companies where I&O leaders have transformed their teams to deliver value to their enterprise customers. and the results are amazing. This is your opportunity to do the same. Lead the infrastructure platform revolution. Be that secret sauce to innovation and the acceleration of value. So all that sounds right, yes? Well, newsflash. If you fail to transform to infrastructure platform engineering, you'll be limited to only managing legacy infrastructure. And I think you would agree with me, that's not a desirable situation to be in. IPE not only builds on what you're already doing, but it also enables a structured approach that's different in two key ways. First, treat your users as customers and leverage product management principles. Second, leverage software engineering practices to provision and manage infrastructure platforms. We need to take our existing coding and scripting skills and apply software engineering practices to make them more efficient, repeatable, and scalable. Our experience shows that IP has a lot of benefits for your customers as well as for you. For product teams, it accelerates application delivery cycle times. For developers, IPE increases their autonomy. For platform customers, it reduces cognitive load. The benefits to you are reducing the duplication of tools and such that might exist in your environment. Secondly, improving the ability to quickly adapt to changing business needs. Thirdly, creating more opportunities for team members. It improves retention and also attracts new talent. And most importantly, applying engineering practices to automate and operate infrastructure, ensuring better reliability, security, and compliance. Let me illustrate these benefits in a case study from Politiet, a national police agency in Norway. Their infrastructure provisioning process was all ticket-based. It involved a lot of manual approvals and handoffs. They elected to invest time and money to implement a developer self-service platform to increase autonomy and also to become more productive. And results were amazing. The cycle time for releasing applications to production went from months to seconds. Not surprisingly, their software engineers were very happy. For the I&O team, they experienced minimal deployment-related tickets, which greatly improved their productivity. Who would not want to have outcomes like these? Do as Politiet. Invest in key IPE aspects like automation and orchestration skills, along with developer self-service portals. So let's talk about how to successfully implement IPE. The first area we need to look at is our team structure. Our traditional siloed structures involves multiple engineers from multiple teams, requiring multiple handoffs, causing major frustration for our users. I remember a decade ago when I assumed leadership for an infrastructure team. I could not believe that a simple server build request triggered 12 tickets involving multiple teams. No wonder it took 6 weeks. That's why some customers are looking for services outside of I&O. And with public cloud services, customers now have more options. They can certainly go around this. So we need an IPE team that has all the resources required to deliver end-to-end user-centric platforms. Our customers don't care who does what. They just want an easy button. Yes, an easy button. Our goal is to become the preferred infrastructure service provider and partner for our enterprise. If we give our customers the easy button while reducing risk, why would they go elsewhere? The second area we need to focus on is developing software engineering skills. Skills like version control, code reviews, CI/CD, automated testing will be key to delivering reliable platforms. Gen AI can also help you with this. Frankly, many of your engineers are probably already ahead of you and already using unapproved AI coding assistants to create scripts and get their job done. So to engage, you must first establish guidelines and policies for your teams on the use of AI tools. And second, create a list of approved vendors that provide domain-specific models and assistance for infrastructure as code. Let's discuss what we've learned from our clients who've done this successfully so that you can apply it within your own organizations. Their infrastructure platform engineering transformation focused on 4 key principles. Principle number 1, platforms need to be delivered as products. That means you need a dedicated platform owner. They will develop the vision and roadmaps for the platform. Next, you need dedicated resources who will deliver and maintain a platform. And last, you need to demonstrate success through metrics, such as customer satisfaction, ease of use, and reliability. Principle number 2, start with the thinnest viable platform. I talk to many clients that think IP is a novel idea that they just aren't ready for. But just like any product, platforms should begin simple and evolve with validated effectiveness and usage. So don't be intimidated with everything here. Start small, save users time, and continue to improve. Principle number 3, platforms need to be demand-driven. Platform teams need to be highly engaged with customers and prioritize new platforms and enhancements based on their needs. The platform owners need to evolve platforms based on adoption and new requirements. And finally, principle number 4, platforms should provide easy paved roads for users. These platforms need to be documented and easy to use, so that customers will be compelled to follow the easy paved road rather than building their own stuff. Stefan Lenz from Audi applied these principles to change his I&O team. Just like all of you, Audi's team had a very long list of projects and operations work that reduced their ability to create capacity for transformational tasks. So he focused on process and culture to deliver a product mindset where value creation for the customer is the prime directive. Their approach relied on product management practices to decompose requests into 3-month increments. And within those 3 months, prioritize based on value that is delivered during that period. Instead of project updates, the team grants visibility into backlogs to show progress across the full portfolio of demand. All these business units were very pleased with the team's ability to deliver smaller chunks of value. They shifted 20% of their project budgets into a centralized pool for infrastructure. Yes, I said 20%. Imagine what that kind of funding would do for you. This also created a completely different culture within Stefan's team. It provided autonomy and control to the platform team. Staff were happy with the opportunity to work on new tasks outside of their typical domains, instead of the same boring, mundane tasks. As you'll see when Autumn discusses strategies for your staffing needs, this is one example of how to empower your team to develop capabilities they need to be successful. Okay, you all with me so far? We've covered a lot of ground in this section. Let me take a moment and summarize. Infrastructure platform engineering is your future. No matter if you're just starting out or if you've been on this journey already, it is your future. It is the second important ingredient in your generative transformation. I can see this transformation is not easy, but it is essential to your future success. So you must start now. Focus on your customers and build what they need to be successful. Appoint a product owner and allocate necessary resources. Invest in your team to develop the capability, skills, and practices to enable your customers. And take advantage of the opportunity that Gen AI offers. Both Gen AI and infrastructure platform engineering are important to your generative transformation. We've covered how they will provide your teams with the ability to accelerate value delivery, improve functionality, and the creation of new services. Now let's take a look at how to equip your staff with the capabilities they need to drive this transformation. Autumn?
Thank you, Dennis. As Tom and Dennis have shown so far, this generative transformation will also require new human capabilities. Because we all know that success isn't going to be determined by technology alone. Success lies in the hands of those steering this change, which is all of you. Now, for the past few years, we've been talking about how we need to build an adaptable, motivated, and future-ready workforce. That it's no longer about just keeping up with the pace of change. It's about equipping our teams with the confidence, knowledge, and resources to thrive in a future that demands continuous learning. But people are complicated. There's no math we can do or process that we can follow that will get us to the correct outcome for everybody. Wouldn't that be nice? However, there are proven ways that we can channel this ambiguity, tap into the uniqueness of our people, and use it to our benefit. Doing so will require changes in the way that we hire and operate. But more importantly, it will require change in the way that we think. Now, we need new tools and new skills, no doubt. But the true game changer lies in our ability to empower our people to have a generative mindset. Now, a generative mindset is rooted in the creation and nurturing of new ideas, free from any constraints. And generative thinking requires that employees are culturally and systemically supported to continuously challenge the status quo. So today, I'm going to walk you through 3 things that you can do to empower your people to think generatively. First, how to assess and hire for the characteristics you need, not the qualifications. Next, how to amplify growth opportunities and provide transparency in skills development. And most importantly, how to cultivate a culture where it is safe to explore, try new roles, and learn from failures. Now, some of this may sound familiar, but few are actually doing this today, because this is all easier said than done. So what I want to do is show you real-world examples of some of your peers who have accomplished these things and bring it to life for you. So let's dive into how we can change our hiring approaches to attract generative-minded talent. Now, according to our 2023 INO Signature Role Survey, the #1 skill that INO leaders must promote through 2024 is critical thinking and analysis. So these soft skills are actually just as, if not more important than our technical skills. Because without the ability to think critically and creatively, your organization will stagnate. Hiring for these skills will require pushing against conventional wisdom to find that unconventional value. So look beyond traditional certifications, degrees, and experiences, and instead seek those who possess the agility to navigate whatever it is that comes their way. And there's a wide variety of sources that we can be filling these talent gaps with today that we just completely overlook. And I mean, don't you hate it when people say, hey, that's not my job? And yet, the first thing we do when we go to hire for a position is put out a job description. Now, we often think that we're hiring for a job or a role. But what we end up getting is a person's capability set. So we need to replace job descriptions with capability descriptions. Because jobs are transient. Capabilities are lasting. The best hiring managers assess candidates based on their capabilities and then create positions just to have the right people onboarded. And they evaluate these capabilities based on how they tie to specific outcomes. And that is exactly what we need to do. And we call this outcome-based hiring. And we worked with an organization that did this really well, so I want to share their experience with you. BASF discovered that its hiring managers were unintentionally limiting their talent pool of qualified candidates by focusing far too much on just qualifications. However, they recognized multiple examples of high-performing employees who would have been completely disqualified from their hiring process given their current job designs. So using these examples, they gained leadership approval to change their hiring approach, and they embarked on an initiative to drive impact-based hiring, in which job design was focused exclusively on outcomes. So the first thing they did was carry out a needs definition process to define the successful outcomes of the role. Next, they partnered with recruiters to craft job postings that communicate what this success looks like. This way, candidates won't self-select out just because they don't meet a certain qualification. And as a result of this more inclusive upfront screening process, BASF was able to quickly hire over 200 new hires, significantly increasing their diversity in the process. And when these hiring managers were asked how they liked their new hires hired under this process, they universally said that they were happy, and many of them even said that these hires were some of the best that they had on their teams. Now, this is all great, but while bringing in generative talent is important, we also need to be thinking about who we already have and how we can support them in their evolution. This brings us to step 2. Empowering our people to think beyond their silos and explore new opportunities for their careers. And, frankly, we're kind of being forced into this one, because our data shows that talent acquisition alone is not enough to keep up with modern skills requirements. In fact, a staggering 2/3 of organizations are struggling to fill critical skills gaps in IT, leading to a downsizing of internal IT teams and an over-reliance on outsourcing. And now with new tools and processes like Gen AI and IPE, we have to develop new skills faster than we ever have before. So you should explore new learning and development models for your employees and provide new career paths so that change isn't happening to your people, it's happening with them. And here's another great example. Ernst & Young achieved dynamic upskilling in infrastructure and operations teams by providing employees with customizable career roadmaps. And they did this all through what they call their My Skills profile, which is essentially an intranet page for each employee to catalog their skill sets. So to motivate the workforce, Ernst & Young gave employees clear visibility into the skills that they currently bring to the table and what skills they might need or simply want to develop. So after locating a potential new role, employees could compare their personalized skills profile with the role's skills requirements to identify where and how they would need to develop to be ready for such position. And as a result of this initiative, Ernst & Young employees quickly cataloged over 1,300 new skills since the start of the program. And yes, this activity of transparency and career pathing, it did end up leading some people outside of the INO organization. But you know what? That's okay. Because if our people in INO learn that what we do helps them grow into new roles, that's an attractor that will bring those good people to us, the type of people who want to grow. Now, hiring outcome-focused talent, creating growth opportunities for staff, these are critical action steps, but incomplete on their own. Because the generative mindset cannot thrive in a culture that is marked by a fear of failure. Which brings us to step 3. Foster an environment that encourages experimentation and accepts that failure is just one part of the learning process. We need a culture that prioritizes psychological safety, where it's safe to fail, not fail-safe. And where adaptability is not just a desirable trait, it's an essential one. And our Learning and Development Disruption Survey highlighted this importance of psychological safety. It showed that employees with high psychological safety have a 67% higher probability they'll apply a newly learned skill on the job. Meanwhile, those experiencing low psychological safety struggle to even ask for help, with 78% less likely to admit that they're struggling with a new skill. Therefore, encourage your employees to take risks and explore new roles without the fear of repercussions. And managers play a key role in creating this confidence and safety throughout the employee upskilling process, acting as career accelerators, not gatekeepers. And this can be tough, because managers can often be reluctant to give up their best talent. We've all seen that happen. But just as employees need to be nudged and given time to grow, managers also need incentives to facilitate development activities in their teams. So if we return to our Ernst & Young example, they realized more was needed to ensure that these employees actually felt safe to engage with this upskilling program. And so they incentivized managers to be accountable for their team's development through a 4-step process. Step 1, they encouraged managers to allocate time for team learning and development. Step 2, managers were taught to recognize the efforts of future-oriented team members and reward these adaptive mindsets. Managers were then responsible for guiding employees through skills development and career pathing. And finally, managers were encouraged to leverage their institutional network and their institutional knowledge and internal network to actually guide employees and recommend new roles to them proactively. And John Russo, their director of IT optimization services, said that this has increased their retention, and they have some of the lowest turnover rates in areas where they used to have some of the highest turnover. So create the space to openly discuss the path to progress, because this is the key to allowing the generative mindset to thrive. So to recap, there are 3 actions that you need to take. First, hire for characteristics and capabilities, not just qualifications. And do this by aligning recruitment to outcome-based hiring. Next, encourage existing staff to explore their interests and potential in new roles and make that path clear for them. And finally, create a culture where employees feel safe to learn and explore. These actions will yield empowered individuals who will help you navigate all the inflection points that we're facing today and all the new technology evolutions of tomorrow. Your people are your firm foundation, and their preparedness to innovate, learn, and adapt will be your greatest asset.
Thank you, Autumn. Excellent guidance.
It looks like our Gen AI overlord has left us alone, so that's good. Innovations in our industry are coming faster and faster, and they build on each other. We've got to build the capability to thrive through accelerating change, and we believe the only way forward is generative transformation. Embracing transformation as a way of operating and a way of delivering business value with agility.
You should use Gen AI to multiply the productivity of your staff and transform how they do their jobs. Start with low-risk use cases, but press forward and be creative. Also, apply infrastructure platform engineering practices to optimize infrastructure platforms delivery. Embrace a product mindset and reskill your people to provide your customers with the autonomy and the capabilities that they need to innovate and be successful. And, of course, we are nothing without the people who make this magic happen. So foster a generative mindset and create an environment that encourages the psychological safety.
The health, growth, and future of your organization, it requires a new approach. It requires a generative transformation that will equip you and your teams with the capabilities you need to handle all the inflection points yet to come. Recognize the significance of such transformation and start your journey today. Thank you and enjoy the conference.